Now what are we learning? Becoming smart.
Yeah, smart, sustainable nation. So this is, you see, learning societies. So it's very much the same logic behind, like I told before, but more from a nation state, from a city, village perspective. Here's the logotype of the new project that was...
Who makes it?
It was in fact, I think, I don't know him, but I think a student at NTNU with a bit of feedback and like that. It's the 17 goals partnership is around. I could speak a lot about, I think one point before I start, since I look at learning societies, I said initially that the hardest part of building partnerships is to understand each other. As long as there is money, it's okay, people will continue. But when it ends, then you will start it, the conflicts are coming. No, that idiot or that person or that group, or I don't understand them, it's not a waste of time or whatever. So it's really an art of being a good translator, the system entrepreneur. So we have looked at different, so like a metaphor we use is a learning society. There is a concept of smart cities that you heard, rural villages. We have the urbanization and we have the rural areas, 50% rural, 50% urban. And we have a strong way of that people are moving to cities. Yeah. That makes a big, as you know, the villages are lagging behind in knowledge and stuff. So yeah, the Nordics, for example, Sweden's a big debate now about, yeah, what about us living in the rural places? Everything is put in the cities. So if you use smart city as a concept, then you miss 50% of the assets. Plus you get anger. So not just that you miss the resources, you also get a lot of conflicts. So that's just one element, that smart city is some construct coming from European Commission or something very theoretical, but they haven't listened. So this is constructed concept in my opinion. So we need to find common words in when you build ecosystem where you feel, oh, they seem to like this, they seem to like it. Okay, then we take it. So it's a lot of listening and to find the key concept, the key words in this element building. And this shifts over time. It's like 3-4 years and then there are new concepts. You need to continuous listening for the new emerging stories. And for me, storytelling is more close-ended. Narrative is the big journey. Where are we heading? Narrative is like the big thing. Story is within. Storytelling is good for the operating. But narrative is like, where are we heading as a nation in 20-50 years? That's the big narrative. Like when you were here in the summer, a good guy, and this was Martin Luther King, I have a dream. He didn't say I have a plan. So you need to have something bigger where people can feel, okay, I have a space within this. But it's super important to build an ecosystem to find a narrative for multi-perspective. If it's just for the tech entrepreneurs, fine, they think roughly the same, but if you want the state, if you want the academy, I guarantee you need to broaden your perspectives and be a better listener.
Alma Talent is a good example of that ecosystem.
Yeah. You can see, you can update, you can build social capital.
And every kind of person.
Yeah. And of course you want to build that arena, that's the playground of the future. Yeah. To have this like, it's not just for us here sitting, it's for the whole world. If you can't join, they should know how to log into your mobile or whatever. The smartest people are outside. How do you design for that? So when I started my PhD, I got two supervisors, a professor in finance and accounting, and then I have a supporting advisor in organization theory. And since I was going out in networks and abstract relations, he said, try to identify the edges or the borders in networks, because there is always, and the border is like a structure, who is in, who is outside. So if you go to a room, who is not in the room? Focus on who is not in the room, because a lot of things are happening around borders. So it's a skill to see who is not there, what is missing, what is the missing point. And then you need, of course, to manage and facilitate what is in the room, but also to learn what is not in the room. That's a skill to learn for building. This is, like I said, intangible assets. You don't see them. It's not like building a wall. It's you see when it falls down, but not when the knowledge is growing. So and people who are good in ecosystem, community building, they have this talent. They know it intuitively. They see in people, they don't feel well, how are you? But one of the lessons is, coming to social capital, is we have 3 concepts of social capital relation. We have the bonding social capital, the community, the close group. We know each other. We almost don't need to speak with each other, because if I look at you and I know you since you were a kid, I don't need to ask. You know each other. That's the good, because you don't need to explain everything. It's continuity, good for long time things. So that's often community managers, but they are not good, in my opinion, often in reaching out to others. They are good within the community, the bonding, building the family. But it's another asset to be an explorer, to build the new blood into the ecosystem. That's often a missing point, because that's more risky to go to Sweden or to go to on the boat or to space or something. It's more risk to take to be the explorer. But it's critical for the long time survival of the family or the community that you have new blood in. And then you have the third, so that's called bridging social capital. And then you have a third element, which is called linking social capital. That's power relations. Power in terms of political power, decisions, you can do this with legal, or that's okay, or finance. So bonding is like where you nurture and build something, a business or city or whatever, together. And bridging is where you bring in the new resources, linking or bridging, this was said. And then the linking, the power, is where you get the amplifier, you can say. It's a go. Here's the house, here's the papers, here's the money. You have something yourself. So it's also good there when you start to build relations in an ecosystem to keep track on these 3 types of qualities, which is one of the capital categories. So that's so all these different human capital, social capital, structural capital has subdivisions, so to say, to build this accounting system. This is a bit about the project. I don't go into this, but I think this could be a bit of added value. To build an ecosystem, it takes time. And this is a nation. It's not a startup. You can of course see a nation as a startup as also, but in a wider perspective, from institutions, politicians, police, tax.
Come here, Bert-Ola, so we can all be one together. Just sit down.
So this is a bit wider perspective. It's from a multi-stakeholder perspective, from the decision makers, the politicians, from the academy, from the startups, from the civil society. So you need to understand it takes time. You don't build these political structures over a few months. It takes 10 years maybe, or many years to have that understanding. So it's like different stages. So it's more from a holistic, broad perspective. And this is processes. So the different stages: engage, design, activate, accelerate, support. Different stages and different processes. So around, and this is a theory of change: listen, link, and learn. So this is the time dimension for years. This is different processes, and this is the qualities within. So for example, if you work with policy development, it's also interrelated, all these figures. So if you work with policy development at early stage, you will probably need to think about partnerships with others, or what standards are here, so like the surrounding fields in this stage, and it shifts with time. And so it's a little bit, where do you belong on this? Am I here in citizen engagement? Is it with getting in contact with the startups? Then you need a little bit around the organizations and about projects, and you need to have skills around this field. It's quite big idea, but the thing is it's multiple dimensions to work on over time. This is really to build a society.
It's too much.
Too much, yeah.
In a good way.
Yeah, but it takes time to build a society. So if you're a nation builder or city builder, you should have people who are really keep track on this.
So, can we, our country is only 70 years old, so can we take our country as a startup?
Yeah.
And can we plot our country progress on this?
Absolutely. I think I have started to see the concept of startup society.
Mm-hmm.
Because we need, and that is a little bit like the city from Nairobi, 60 kilometers outside Nairobi. They are doing this. You can say a city like a small nation, because you have political structure, you have decision makers, you have academy. That was a city with 250,000 built from scratch. But everything should be there. Schools, the public schools, the waste. So they need to have a bit of this operating system. But it's good for you as well, in a way. If you, what standards, how do you measure, how do you governance structure? If you're a big company, if you're Microsoft, I guarantee they have all these levels. They are like a nation, more or less.
So we should know where we are standing and where we have to go, and these are the steps that we have to take.
Yeah, and each, for example, in Trondheim, the city where we have explored this, they work a lot on this level, the policy. So that's why it's in like this. And behind each of these, there are another 30, 40 dimensions. How do you do specifically? This is like the operating manual, the first page. And when you click here, you get, okay, blah, 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 it opens up. So this is part of the operating system. Going back to the first module of the 4 elements, charter, playground, journey, lab. So this is part of the charter, the first element. But I think what I want to convey is its complexity. It takes time to build, and try to, and also built, of course, and designed from where we are now in the context and the future. And here are some of the indicators that can come out how you start to measure, for example, standardization, this level. So if you start to measure different parts in the city, this process standardization can start to look like this, and you can start to measure the budget spent on SDGs and stuff. It's a governance structure. How do you start to build a project like this? What pieces do you need? And so. And when you scale up it in the region, you start one place, and how do you scale it out to other places? I can go back a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So this is the first page. I'm just gonna, if it was digital, you could click here, and then you get more logic, how it looks. This, so it's just the first page.
Yeah.
And this is part of the charter, if you remember the Learning Society with the 4 elements.
Yeah.
Charter, playground, journey, and lab. This is part of the charter, how we work, the overview,
Yeah.
how we measure.
Yeah. This is structure.
And here's the leadership. If you work with the organization, the leadership, as you imagine, this is a lot of competence. How to listen, how to link. This is your employees need to be good at this. So it's a deeper learning. Maybe you should have a 3D in some way to, I think next illustration, to show the quality dimension. It's not just do this and this. It has the 4 ways of listening to expand your, it's like a continuous process. And here's the standard, this level, standardization. Can start to look like this in a city. How do you measure? You can have a language budget. How do you start to have a budget system? How do you start to organize it? This is one way of organizing it in this particular case with UN and the cities. And how do they take this Norwegian framework to the world? And this is for other countries. So the idea is Norway make a blueprint for the world with UN, how they work with this, and then they can start to implement it in other places. There's a lot of SDG labs for UN based on disruptive technologies and like that. This specific lab is about cities, regions, and policies, and how do you make the localization from a more democratic way. It's not just it's not from a innovation perspective. It is from an innovation perspective in one way, but more from who can take the lead as a nation. It's the government. It's not a startup. Who can say this is us? You understand? So it's a bit from that perspective. But of course, all actors are embedded here: the startups, the academy, the civil society, and so on. Here's one project ongoing right now in 7 cities in Europe. So it's like a test case. And a prototype a little bit. Some links. Process, time perspective. Yeah. Yeah, that was a bit short. Any questions?
I have an unrelated question. I have lost ones. They are like they are not like. Okay, so like what happens like in our country, we are working around the clock. Like I work like 18 hours. So but people over here they work 7.5 hours like usually. So what do you think like maybe we like some countries are too much busy in doing same kind of thing on daily basis, and some countries are busy, they're relaxed. So maybe you guys can build ecosystem intelligently, and we are not because like we're busy something. Or
I think it's another role as a startup. You work. I mean, it's most startups, even here, the best startups, they work 18 hours a day. So that's no different. It's a global market. So I guarantee they work as many hours. But of course, the startup entrepreneur, they don't have time to develop this sort of ecosystem ideas and for the whole ecosystem. They need to concentrate on their business. So it's more a question who is building this ecosystem overviews and keep it running and like that.
So this city operating system can be built using this structure, right?
Yeah, exactly, because it has, if it's a city or a state, you see, because embedded in innovation partnerships, this level
मैं रोज को जगा दिया वो
is very
checkout
much
वगैरह का
different
मसला था,
stakeholders,
उसका तो
innovation partnerships.
हाँ,
So it's the academy,
जिससे भी करना है वो
the
हिसाब
business,
करना है ना, जिससे करना
the
है।
city, for example.
वो मैं रोज कर रहा हूँ, मैं रोज को
Typical
कर रहा हूँ।
innovation partnership. Organizational development everyone needs. I think when it comes to this level, organizational development, if you want to be relevant in the future as a company startup, you need to embed SDGs and these type of skills. Otherwise, it will be hard to, as a bigger company, to grow. If you don't, your employees are not like listening and what's going on, how can I build business, what are the needs, it's not possible.
So Bert-Ola, are you coming to Pakistan?
Yeah, that's my plan here. Now, November this year it's a short tour, but 2020 we could have I could build whatever
You
you
can build a
want.
city.
I can build the nation.
So when are you coming in November?